So tell me who you are.
Justin Roedl.
Justin, where are you from?
I'm from Altamont.
Tell me a little bit about yourself.
I was born and raised in Altamont my whole life. Mom and dad, Dan and Janet Roedl, sister Carrie Ruhal. I have a wife, Whitney, and 4 kids, Cameron, Colby, Chloe, and Charlie.
What high school did you attend?
Altamont,
And then what year did you graduate from there?
1996.
Any sports you played in high school?
Yes, I played basketball for 4 years. I played baseball for 3, and then ran track for 2.
Tell me about your teammates and your coaches.
Basketball, Lyle Casper was our varsity basketball coach. Teammate-wise, my junior year, Chris Guzzi was one of our top players, and then in my class, Matt Welter. Baseball, we had Gary Ellis as a head coach my first year, and then Joey Unasorge was a coach for the next couple of years. And then for track, Gary Ellis was my track coach, and some very significant teammates in that were Jeremy Nelson, Steve Schultz, and Shane Depew.
What success did you have in the high school sports department?
Track was probably my most successful sport. It was something I kind of fell into. We ended up, or me personally, went to state in both 95 and 96, my junior senior year. And then in 96, our 4x1, 4x2, and 4x4 teams all won sectionals, went to state, advanced to state. We still had the school record for the 4x1. We placed in both the 4x1 and the 4x2, I believe. If I remember correctly, 6th place in the 4x1 and 7th in the 4x2. 4x4 was probably our best relay, but at that time we had graduation on qualifying day, Friday night, and it was a long rain delay, and we had to get out of there to get back to graduation, so we scratched out of the 4x4. But we did get to run the finals in 2 events and placed in both of them, so it was a good experience.
So where did you attend college?
I spent 2 years at Lakeland. Then I transferred to Illinois State for 1 year, and then after a year at Illinois State, I transferred back down to Eastern and finished up there.
What was your major?
At Lakeland, it was pre-PT or physical therapy, and then I changed over to athletic training at Illinois State, and then when I got back to Eastern, I went into teaching, so I kind of jumped around.
So now on to the coaching part. Where have you all been, and who did you all coach with?
My coaching career started at Charleston as a volunteer coach. I volunteered for the 8th grade middle school team under Randy Harpster. I was there for 3 years. After graduating, I went on to St. Elmo and coached 7th grade boys basketball there, where we had a pretty successful team, coached Colton Boer's class. And then after that, I moved up to the Chicago area and coached in the suburbs for 3 years at Forest Park. And I did both boys and girls basketball up there at the middle school and a little bit of softball before coming back closer to home to Sullivan. And then at Sullivan, I coached only girls. I helped out with the high school team and coached the 7th grade team with Jack Cohan. And then after that, I moved here to Cumberland, where I've been for 12 years.
And you made your rounds, Justin.
I've been quite a few places.
So talk about the process of becoming the Cumberland basketball coach, which you are currently, and you're also the athletic director.
The basketball coach, like I said, I've been here about 12 years. So 13 years ago, the position opened, and I interviewed for it. And, I wasn't really looking to move anywhere unless it was a varsity position. And then, that's what I seek, was a boys varsity basketball position. So I came down and interviewed and went through a couple interviews with the school and then with the school board. And, thankfully, they offered me the job and I accepted it. As far as the AD job, I want to say that's been, all runs together, I want to say I've been doing it for 4 years, going on 5, if I remember correctly. And that position, the old athletic director, he had stepped down and he was looking more to get into some administration stuff like that. And so when the AD position opened, I talked to Todd Butler and Kevin Maynard at the time and showed my interest, and they interviewed and again offered me the job, and I took it.
What's your favorite part to coaching?
I'd say probably seeing the kids develop from the time their freshman year when they come in through their senior year when they graduate, and then just seeing the overall success they have, individually and as a team.
What are some obstacles you face while coaching?
I would say one of the biggest obstacles is trying to balance time with our athletes. Being a small school, we have a lot of athletes that play multi-sports, and finding a way to get them in here, and especially in the summertime, travel baseball, you have football 7-on-7s, and still get in here for basketball and get something out of it. It's tough, and you have your kids that are basketball, is their number one priority, and you have kids that aren't that way, and balancing that and making sure you get, effort out of everyone and get optimal results throughout the summer is probably the most difficult thing. But we do have a great group of coaches here that work together to make sure that we schedule things to where the kids can be involved in everything.
How do you balance being the head coach and the athletic director at the same time?
That's very difficult. As you know, and everyone knows, coaching is a lot of time, a lot of late nights, and then you throw on top of supervision of the other sports that are going on outside of your sport. It makes it very difficult. I'd say there's two things that make it possible. Number one, the administration here, Kevin Mater, Todd Butler, they cover boys basketball games when I'm coaching. They help share the duties of some other sports for me. That way I can, sometimes be at home or travel and watch some other games. And then just having an understanding family. My wife, very understanding, very helpful. And if it wasn't for her and taking care of the 4 kids at home, there's no way I'd be able to do it.
Name some notable teams.
Teams that I've coached, correct? When I first came here, my first year in 2008, 2009, I had a very, very talented team. Very tall. I think we started 6'8", 6'5", 6'4", 6'1". Pretty big team for a Cumberland basketball team. Very athletic. That team is one that I wish that I had more time with and didn't have just as seniors. The following year, that team, we were very successful. Went on to the Sweet 16 that year. We were conference champs, 24-8 season. So those were probably, my first 2 years were very, very memorable here. Between then and now, we've had a lot of good teams, a lot of great players come through here, but most notably, the 2017-18 team, we won the conference tournament and the conference championship. We ran the table with all conference teams, didn't lose to any of them throughout the year. And then the 2019-20 team, this past season, we also won the conference tournament.
So now that we mentioned notable teams, name some notable players that you've coached.
That first year I came here, we had seniors, Dalton Sowers, Jeremy Jansen's were a couple of them that were very talented, athletic players. Juniors on that team, Reed Draper, Silas Gable, were a couple kids that I'm sure a lot of people remember and had nightmares about. Just great players, great kids. I hate mentioning players because you're going to leave someone out or forget about somebody. But we've had phenomenal kids here in my 12 years here. You got to talk about Tyson Mcgee. He's in the Hall of Fame here, along with Silas, who I mentioned earlier, and then Zach Wolke's another kid that's in the Hall of Fame here for as far as basketball players that are probably the most notable and the ones that people around here would remember the most.
Say Tyson and Zach are pretty stick out to your thumb right away with being athletes here. Talk about your assistants.
My first year when I came here, Justin Wallace, who was a past graduate that I did not know was my assistant, and I'll tell you what, he's been the best thing that's ever happened to me here. He's a knowledgeable person, but the biggest thing he helps me with, he's not even on staff anymore just because of his job, and he can't be here, but his tech work. He can do anything technology-wise, and he really helps me out on that side of things when it comes to huddle and getting things set up and fixed. And if it wasn't for him, it'd be a lot more difficult. I've had a lot of past players, Jake McMeekin, Cole Carlin, that have helped out. Monty Walke Sr. helped me out one year, stepped in when we needed somebody. And then right now, currently, Zach has came back and started volunteering and helping last year. And, we're hoping he'll be back again next year. And we also added Greg Bolt, who's been just a tremendous, tremendous help with the boys.
Tell me about some of your favorite games that you have been a part of as being a coach here.
I would have to say year in, year out. Anytime we play Casey and anytime we play Neoga, it seems like the kids get a little more excited. It's a little more talked about. I have people that work at a VABCO that I talk to that they're always talking about that Casey game and when we're going to play Casey, no matter what the records are, and the same thing with Neoga. Those are the games that everybody's asking about. One personally for me, and luckily the boys get into it too, is the Altamont game. Being a graduate of Altamont, going to Altamont and playing at Altamont is, in my opinion, one of the best high school basketball places and atmospheres that you can play in. So the boys really get up for that game, and obviously being from there, it's a game that means a little more to me too. As far as games that I can think of that weren't every year, that second year, Marshall, we went over to Marshall. They'd just beaten us in the conference tournament by 20 plus. I remember walking out of that game thinking, they're just better than us. And after studying film and watching them, I thought we figured some things out. We went over there and beat them on their senior night. Very close, hard-fought game. And I don't know if I'm sure you have been to games at Marshall, another place that
they got a gym that gets full very easily.
Very hot, very
Yes.
loud,
Oh.
and again, just great game, great atmosphere, and we won that game that gave us the conference championship that I don't think they've won since 1995 was the last time that they had won until that year. Also that season, probably my all-time favorite game to be part of was our sectional championship game against Woodlawn. Just again, a great game, came down to the wire, shot at the buzzer, go to overtime, and then another shot at the end of overtime that rattled out and lost. I mean, again, just one of the best high school basketball games I'd been to, even though I was part of it. If I wasn't, I think, I still would have thought the same thing. Then this year we had a couple pretty memorable games in the conference tournament. We played Arthur Lovington and overtime game, semifinals. We airballed the shot actually, and it happened to land right into Ross's hands, layup. Since it's overtime, we end up winning. And then the championship game, end of regulation, Memphis Wagner gets the ball, hadn't scored a point all night, and hits about a 30-foot three-pointer to send it to overtime, and then we win again. So, I mean, those were two most recent memorable games I'm sure anybody that follows Cumberland basketball will remember.
Tell me about who the biggest rivalry Cumberland has to face for basketball in general.
That I think it kind of varies from year to year and sport to sport and kids to kids. But I really, when it comes to the community, they think Neoga Casey, Neoga Casey. I think that's probably has to be our biggest rival. I don't know that everyone thinks that, but I think the community in general, that's the games that they're looking for.
Describe how this community has welcomed you.
It's been great since I've been here. They've welcomed me from the start. There was some growing pains, as far as feeling me out, me feeling them out, seeing how things worked and all that kind of stuff. But I think I've grown a lot here, as a coach, as an individual, and I really feel like this is home. And I think the community, the school, everybody involved has really helped with that to make me feel so comfortable.
Who has helped you along the way?
My parents being supportive for me, in sports growing up, which definitely has got me where I'm at. I've had a lot of coaches, like I mentioned Randy Harpster before, has given me a lot of insight. Ryan Beckie over at St. Elmo, him and I have been best friends forever. He's helped me along the way and got me through things. Dan Stasers, an individual I met up at Forest Park that is actually from the local area that's given me lots of knowledge and stuff. Any coach that I've worked with has helped me along the way. When it comes to here, Bob Gable's an individual that I met when I first moved here, and he was very supportive and has helped me out at the middle school level, and he's helped me get to where this program is. And I mentioned Kevin Maynard, Todd Butler, Todd Hall in the past as an administrator has been really supportive of me. And again, lessons that needed to be learned, and that they helped me through them. And I think I've grown, and I think I've become better because of all of them.
So describe who your biggest role models are. Somebody who you look up to mightily.
I'd have to say, my parents just their work ethic throughout life, their values, and then just looking at my wife and how understanding she is and how supportive she is of what I do, and you know, thinking of me first has obviously helped me out as far as thinking that way too.
If you weren't coaching or being an athletic director, what would you be doing, Justin?
I honestly don't know how to answer that question. Sports has been what I've done ever since I can remember. When I could play sports, I played sports, and that's all I could think of. You know, what do you want to be? What do you want to be? You know, I talked that I went into physical therapy in college. The reason I got out of it is because they didn't work with athletes, and I wanted to work with athletes. So that's why I went into athletic training. Got into that, and I'm like, well, you know, I want to coach. How can you coach and be an athletic trainer? You know, your kid gets hurt, and you got to go take care of them. You can't coach. So that's why I decided to go into teaching, and again, I think it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made, and I really don't know if I wasn't teaching and coaching, honestly, what I would do.
What advice would you give to younger kids about wanting to be a coach?
Make sure you're in it for the right reasons. You know, you can't be in it for yourself. You have to be in it for the kids, and not just one or two individuals. You have to be in it for all of them.
So, kind of in closing, is there anything else you'd like to share that we didn't mention?
I just, you know, I want to thank you for all that you do for us here. I want to thank, you know, for the support that you've done, for the exposure you give our kids, our program, not just here at Cumberland, but everywhere. You know, I want to thank all the people that have helped me, and, you know, I hope in closing that soon we'll be able to get back into the gyms and work on things and get back together as teams, because that's something I probably miss the most, is just being with the basketball team, and this summer's been very difficult on us all, and I just really hope that soon we'll be all back together and can start working on things again.
Justin, I really enjoyed hearing your story, and I look forward to talking to you more in the future.
All right, thanks.